Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. We've been talking a lot about this final 5-wave impulse that is to come, and as we can see over the last couple days, Bitcoin has broken out massively. This is exactly what I was talking about and warning everybody to be aware of. As we've now gotten this breakout, what does it mean for going forward with Bitcoin? Are we nearing a major cycle top before we see a deeper correction? And if we are, how do we go about positioning ourselves beforehand so that we can capitalize on the further moves to come over the course of this next year? Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, now here we are talking about Bitcoin for today's video. Now this is exactly what I was talking to you guys about and why I was trying so hard to get it through everybody's heads. Even when we were inside of this correction, I made an update talking about why I believe that the bottom is in down here and why we're ultimately going to be expecting another wave 5 impulse. Up to this point, we've done a phenomenal job about calling this entire move to the upside from the very cycle low all the way up to the point of us actually correcting right here. And that's why I was very adamant about explaining that we should ultimately be looking at this as a buying opportunity because we still have one more clear 5-wave impulse to come before this move is over. And as it stands right now, Bitcoin is broken out. We've had this massive move off of the lows down here at about $21,500, and it's following perfectly to what we would expect to see inside of any sort of 5-wave impulse. Now, if we come down here and look at our Elliott wave count, this is going to give you guys a clear idea as to why I ultimately believe that we are going to see this move to the upside. We had very clear Elliott wave structure all the way through, from all the way back down at the very beginning of this move. We're going to remove our waves, we're going to make these black, and we're going to change this to minuscule so it's easier to understand. This was our first impulse right down here, and then we started wave 3 as indicated right here, and then we finished wave 5 of 3 right there. And then what followed was an ABC correction. And this is kind of what I was talking to you guys about. Either we were going to be seeing a short-term correction, and that was taking place right here, or we were going to see one more drop and one more low to shake out the weak hands before we get the completion of wave 4 and then start wave 5. And what we actually ended up seeing was a deeper correction back down to about $21,500, and that was the completion of our 4-wave correction. And now what we're looking at right here is our final 5-wave. So if I come down here and we actually draw our wave count, this is wave 1, this was wave 3, this was wave 4, and we're working on wave 5 right now. We're going to make these a little bit bigger. We're going to make them red. We're going to go to intermediate. And so now this is going to give you guys an idea of where we're actually at inside of this move. Our entire last correction was just us completing wave 4. And what we were expecting to see is one more final impulse upwards of about 27K before this was over. And as it stands right now, I'm still sticking to about 27K. The thing to understand is now that we're actually inside of this wave 5, wave 5s can get overextended. They can also be a little bit shorter than people expect. And I think that a big indication of that is if we go over here and look at Bitcoin cycles, this is going to give you guys an idea of how 5 waves can actually stack up. If we draw our Elliott wave count from the very beginning of our last cycle, this was wave 1, this was wave 3, this was wave 4, and then this was wave 5. And so as you guys can tell, wave 5 barely peaked above wave 3, and we barely made a new all-time high. Whereas if we come back down in here into our 2017 cycle, you guys are going to get a little bit of a different picture. This was wave 1, this was wave 3, and then this was wave 5. And so this was wave 5. So we can see that sometimes wave 5s can get very overextended and they can lead to a much greater blow off top. And sometimes they can actually be a little bit more short-lived, where a lot of people are expecting a blow off top. If you were watching me back here in this point, that's what I was expecting, and I was wrong about that. We only ended up seeing this wave 5 peaking slightly above wave 3 before starting a deeper correction back down. And so I think it's very important that we talk about this right now today, considering the fact we are inside of another wave 5. Now, this one so far has been very impulsive, but inside of a wave 5, they are always going to be very impulsive. Even inside of this one right here, this was still a very big move nonetheless. Even though it wasn't quite as parabolic as many of us would have expected to see, this was still a very quick move that ended up happening, right? And inside of this move right now, it's pretty much following exactly according to plan, where inside of a wave 5, it's going to be the very top of a short-term impulse. In this case, it's a short-term impulse. And inside of these moves, they oftentimes happen very fast, where there's a ton of buy support, which is the reason why our wave 4 corrections aren't that big. I mean, this was a wave 4 correction, and then this was a wave 4 correction. And so neither of these two moves were a very deep correction. Our wave 1 all the way down here pretty much retraced the majority of our first impulse, whereas this being a wave 3 and this being a wave 4, the wave 4 only corrected a small amount. And so that's the way the Elliott waves are going to work. Wave 3 is oftentimes the biggest, the most impulsive, where the most money comes into it, and it gets the most overextended, right? And inside of a wave 4, because of the fact we just had such a large impulse to the upside, there's still a lot of buy support propping up the markets, which is why that's generally going to be the smallest corrective wave that we see. Now heading into wave 5, this is leading us to the very top of our first impulse wave. This is our first cycle, wave 1, wave 3, wave 4, and this is going to be the very completion of 3 waves up. Now inside of this move, wave 5 is oftentimes going to happen very quick, and that's exactly what we've seen up to this point. And I think it's important that we're understanding that if you've been accumulating down in here, or if you bought down in here, and you're in a lot of profit inside of altcoins, you really should be looking at this as an opportunity to be getting out. Now I know that I was really bullish. I made yesterday's video talking about I'm all in, and understand, guys, that at the end of the day, I've been accumulating heavily since the very bottom, and if you've been watching this channel, you'll know that I was very bullish throughout this period. And now that we've actually started to break out and we have very clear Elliott wave structure that's showing us that this impulse is nearing completion, I think it's very important that we should be doing our part by looking to take profits. That might anger some of you, but the only reason anybody would be angry is just because of the fact they didn't buy down in here, and so they're watching the market take off without them, and so they just feel like they need to attack anybody that's talking different about them, anybody that they feel like is disagreeing with what they think, and they're just going to instantly flock to that person and say that they're an idiot, that they're wrong all the time, and all of this stuff. And it doesn't really matter that much whether you guys, what anybody thinks about me. The truth of the matter is I'm just trying to keep as many people safe as I possibly can. And so now with us gearing towards the ending of this first impulse wave, I think it's very important that if you accumulated down in here, you're in a lot of altcoin profits, to be looking to take profits on those. Because here's the thing, guys, even if we extend a little bit higher, we rally upwards of 27K. Maybe we even extend higher than 27K. I don't know exactly where this thing is going to top. There's going to be a lot of profit to be had. And once we actually get our deeper correction on the way back down, it's important to understand how low that's going to take us. So let's just draw this topping at 27K like I've talked about a lot. And what is that going to look like? Well, chances are we're going to correct all the way back down in here, and then we'll make another deeper correction back near the 618 Fibonacci, which is going to be taking us around 20,000, potentially even down to $19,000 to $19,500. It's not like we have to bottom at the 618, but based off the Elliott wave structure, that is initially where I'm going to be targeting for jumping back into positions, because I've made a lot of profit off of this wave up. I'm going to be looking to take profits on a lot of that stuff, and I'm going to be looking to compound those same positions as we get ready for the meteor part of this next year. And so I think it's very important that we're talking about this beforehand, even if we get in further extension, which is most likely going to happen. I mean, if we look at some of our other charts over here, let's come down in here and actually look at the total market cap chart, because this one, I think that it's going to rally upwards of our range highs. Bitcoin is going to clear the range highs. We just tagged them right here. I think Bitcoin's going to clear the range highs. And when Bitcoin clears the range highs, I believe the total market cap is going to simply just bounce off of the range highs. And so there's always going to be a little bit of a deviance, whereas what we saw inside of the total market cap, we never technically broke below support. This was our lowest low that we made in June, and we never actually broke below. We had temporary breaks. We had temporary piercing that happened below this level, but we instantly got bought up and then reclaimed that. So that's not a breakdown by any means. The fact that we had 3 different attempts or 4 different attempts at a breakdown, yet every single one of those held support, perfectly shows that the bottom was in, and it was cementing a bottom right here at our low point at the end of the year. And so now, in the same rule of thumb where we saw Bitcoin make a lower low, keep in mind if we draw a line, Bitcoin clearly made a lower low. It rejected off our previous low, and then we went through our consolidation. So we're going to see variance between the total market cap chart as well as Bitcoin against the dollar. There's always more volatility with Bitcoin against the dollar. There's more factors that we have to play. This is basically just the chart of the volume. And so the chart of the volume, being the total market cap, it follows and obeys certain levels a lot easier. What we're seeing is Bitcoin's already knocking at the door of our August highs. It's getting ready to make our move into basically 27K, like I've talked about, clearing our August highs. and the total market cap, is still sitting below those. And so I do believe that we're going to end up hitting our August high up in here, and then that's pretty much where we're going to top. It is possible that depending if Bitcoin gets very overextended, we rally upwards of 28, 29, maybe even 30K. I don't know. But if we do see something like that, then chances are this itself will end up clearing the August highs. But nonetheless, I don't believe that that's going to be a big reason for, Bitcoin going all the way to $40,000, $50,000. I think a lot of people will get really into that narrative saying, well, we're above the August highs. Bitcoin bear market is over. We're ultimately going to be going straight up to those all-time highs of 69K. And I think that that's where a lot of people are going to end up buying our local top. And so we just have to be aware of this, guys. Elliott waves don't lie. And even though people might misunderstand the Elliott wave count, what we've seen up to this point is a very, very clear Elliott wave impulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're getting ready for the completion of wave 5. Whether that clears our August highs, or whether we just end up peaking, right here at those August highs, it shouldn't really matter that much. The big thing that I'm trying to pound in your guys' heads is the fact that we are at the very ending of this first impulse. And so if this is the ending of this impulse, we're going to be expecting a deeper correction to follow. And so let's just assume we rally upwards of the August highs, and that's our top, and then we start a deeper correction. Well, the place that algorithms end up buying is the 0.5 and the 618. And so the 618 is the golden ratio, right? It's basically the number that all of these numbers are divisible by. It's the average of all of these numbers. And so the golden ratio is a very important mathematic sequence. I don't need to inform you guys about math necessarily, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is oftentimes where markets will bottom is at the 618 level. It's the golden ratio, right? So if you don't know what the golden ratio is, I highly advise going and looking on Google. It's honestly one of the most beautiful things. Even analyzing what the Fibonacci sequence is inside of nature, if you guys have ever wondered why you look at a pine cone and it forms just perfect symmetry in a spiral all the way up, or maybe you've ever wondered why tree branches grow in a certain specific way, or even we have the Fibonacci sequence. We can look at our earlobe and it forms a perfect Fibonacci sequence inside of it where it starts from a little circle and then fractals out bigger. That's the fractal of life. And so I trade Fibonacci because, not that it's some beautiful pattern, even though it is, it's just the fact that markets oftentimes obey these levels, and the 618 being the golden ratio, the average of all of these, that's where oftentimes we see markets bottom and correct back down to. And so the 618 is going to be taking us back to about 900 billion in total market cap, which based off of Bitcoin, we're going to be looking at around, $19,000 to $20,000. And that's where I believe we're going to end up correcting back down to. It takes about 1 to 2 months before we're at the completion of that correction. And we'll be looking at about spring of this year as our bottoming point. And so that's the way that I'm personally going to be playing the market. And I think that, ultimately this video is just me giving you guys an idea as to what my thoughts are moving forward. We've called this entire move off of the lows very consistently, and I'm not trying to, gloat or anything about that. But what I'm talking to you guys about now is the fact that if you've made profit following anything that I've talked about, now is the time where we need to be exercising caution. We need to be preparing for downside risk, because once this top comes in, wherever that is, my target's 27K. Once this top comes in, we're going to be expecting a pretty gnarly correction back down. And even if we rebound back up, people are going to get, caught up inside of this lower high. I still expect that we're going to have a much deeper correction back down. And this will just end up completing some type of ABC correction, right? That's all this is that I drew, is an ABC correction back down to the 618, which, like I've stated in some of my prior videos, we went through a pretty lengthy period of reaccumulation. And really, I should say consolidation off of this level here, leading up to the FTX collapse, and then the FTX collapse causing us to go for a lower low. This lower low is deviation, right? Now that we've rebounded, now that we're about to clear our August highs, there's going to be a lot of late buyers that get trapped on this final move. Everybody that was too bearish down in here is now going to be doing their part by buying. And I'm sorry if yesterday's video caught a lot of people off guard by me saying I'm going all in. Just understand that it's just the thumbnail. If you watched any of the content provided, you'll know what I've been talking about. And even if you've watched the last 2 months of my analysis, you'll know that we've been talking about this exact setup throughout the entirety of the move. Now that we're at the final point of our impulse, we will expect to see this deeper correction back down. And all it is going to be on the bigger time frames, if we go to like a weekly scale, Let's remove our drawing tools right here. All it's going to be is us performing a support and resistance flip off of this previous level right here. Keep in mind that the bottom of this level is 18,500 and the top is about 20,500. So we have a decent way, or I should say, we have a decent gap that we can kind of consolidate on. And I'm not trying to give you guys some specific target that we have to go straight to this level. All I'm sharing with you guys is, an approximation of where I believe that we're going to go and where I'm personally going to be looking to reaccumulate. Because like I've stated, guys, if you were buying down in here when I first started giving the word on why I expected this to be the low and why I said that you're better off buying down in here than you are waiting for a drop to 10K, you're in a lot of profit. A lot of altcoins have gone up a lot. If you bought Bitcoin, you're in a lot of profit. And so now with us completing this first impulse, we are going to be wanting to compound those gains. If there's altcoins that you're really bullish on, I know that I'm bullish on a lot of different altcoins, which keep in mind, guys, if you want to know what I'm looking to reaccumulate, what I'm going to be taking profits on, what prices I'm going to be taking profits on those, and ultimately what values I'm going to be looking to rebuy on and recompound on all of these, you need to join the signals. Links are in the description for anybody that wants to join and sign up for that. There's going to be a lot of really cool stuff that's going on inside of this move. I'm going to keep you guys in touch. I'm going to keep drawing what I think is going to take place. But ultimately, right now, just be aware that we're nearing a local top. After that local top, we'll expect to see a deeper correction back down to 20 to maybe even $18,500 as we ultimately stitch in a bottom, and then that'll stitch us in, and then that'll set us in for our next major wave up. Because keep in mind, guys, if we're looking at our macro wave count, this is only 3 impulse waves: wave 1, wave 3, and we're inside of wave 5. Wherever this overextends to, and then wherever we top to, we're going to have a correction. That will be our wave 2. Wave 2 is going to be creating a support and resistance flip. It's our first higher high in the new trend. So keep in mind, guys, that inside of this wave 2, this is just going to be performing a support and resistance flip. And so if we have a downtrend like this, we've seen lower lows, lower highs all the way through. Eventually, once we've broken out of the downtrend, we've cleared descending resistance, we're going to have to come back down onto previous resistance, now acting as support, and that's where we get the confirmation of our new trend starting. And so that's basically where we'd be able to draw this, and then make this green, and then say, okay, this is our new trend line, right? And then the market would bounce and start doing the exact same thing that it was doing here, except in the inverse. And so this is what I'm talking to you guys about. What we're doing right now, we're finishing out the breakout of our move out of descending resistance. What we're going to have follow is a wave 2 correction that is where we basically stitch in and confirm our trend based off of a move reclaiming prior resistance, now acting as support. And that's exactly what we've seen up to this point. If I draw descending resistance all the way down in here, this was our descending resistance, lower lows, lower highs. FTX collapse saw us actually break outside of that descending resistance, and the FTX collapse was us retesting that descending resistance now as support. And so this first impulse is the very beginning of this move right here, where we're starting the new trend. And so wherever we end up seeing that wave 2 bottom, my guess is it's going to be around $20,000, around 19 or so. That's where we're going to be starting the next major move up. That'll be the bottom of wave 2, and then we'll start wave 3 to the upside, which most likely is going to take us upwards of about 40K. And then we'll correct back down. We'll probably bottom around 30, 32,000, and then we'll still have another wave 5 to go before that is over. And I don't know exactly, how high that's going to go or anything, but if I draw my wave count in here, it'll look probably something like this, right? Something along the lines of this. And that will be basically this move right here as we start our 4-year cycle. After our wave 5, obviously we're going to have some type of correction back down, and then that will set us in for a much bigger move heading into 2024 to 2025. 2024 at April is where our projected Bitcoin halving is going to be. So if we come over here, go to April, we're going to be expecting to see a Bitcoin halving somewhere in here. Now, I don't know exactly what our Elliott wave count is going to look. I know that we're going to have 5 impulse waves leading up to that point. And in kind of the same way that this first cycle played out, our Bitcoin halving was right here. We can see that we made our first impulse, we made our correction, and then we were starting our next move back up. And that was kind of where we saw our Bitcoin halving and then us skyrocketing into new all-time highs in price discovery. So in some sort of fashion, I don't know exactly how it's going to look, I am expecting roughly the same sort of thing, where we'll have finished our first impulse, we'll start correcting around that halving, or maybe, this first impulse happens really quick, we end up making a much quicker impulse back up, rally up something like this, and then we get the completion of that correction in the same sort of way that we saw with COVID, and that's really where we're starting that next major leap into our next impulse. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, guys, but chances are we could actually be nearing a low point once our halving takes place, and then that's going to be setting us in for our leg up that we would expect to take us into price discovery. Because every single one of our cycles, it goes through an Elliott wave cycle. This is going to be wave 1. Most likely that'll be taking us to the ending point and the beginning of our halving. We'll get a wave 3, and then we'll still have some type of wave 5 that will take us. My guess is we'll end up hitting my targets that we never ended up hitting in our last cycle, and we'll be rallying upwards of about 200K, maybe even 250K. I don't know. What I'm focused on is the time frames, and if you guys want to know the time frames, go back and watch my last video that I made yesterday. I map out all of those different time frames, and I help you guys to conceptualize what I'm thinking moving forward from here. So anyways, guys, if you found value in this video, do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos that I end up making for you guys. Now, for the people that want to join and follow every single trade that I'm taking, if you want to know what I'm taking profits on, where I'm looking to rebuy on this dip, what altcoins I'm going to be reaccumulating, what I'm going to be compounding, it's really important that you guys follow along now, because if you're going to join the signals, you don't want to wait until we're already blasting off into new all-time highs. Although that will be a profitable time, there's going to be tons of different signals to be trading. You want to be getting in right now, because this is where I'm like literally accumulating the bulk of my portfolio. This is literally what I'm going to be focusing in on for the long term. And the point is to be accumulating now, awaiting that big move to come, because during that big move is where we're going to be looking to take profits, and all of the accumulation that we're doing right down in here, this is where all of the profit is going to be made. It's always the people that are early to the trend, starting to reaccumulate, starting to dollar cost average in specific altcoins. Once those altcoins take off, you know, they're going to be up so much that anybody that's joining into my signals late, I'm not even going to be telling you to buy the same things. And chances are we're going to already be up, you know, 10, 30, even 100x by that point. And so this is a time where I'm doing my due diligence by accumulating as much as I can. I genuinely believe that we're going to be seeing some explosive markets heading into, you know, throughout this year, but specifically 2024 to 2025. And you want to have that portfolio in place beforehand, before the major parabolic moves, because that's where you make the majority of your profit. It pays to be early in the cycle, and I'm doing my part by sharing everything that I'm doing over this cycle inside with my group. If you guys want to know what I'm taking profits on, how I'm going to be recompounding on this coming dip, highly advise checking it out. Links are in the description. It's a lifetime membership, one-time payment. Once you guys are in, you guys are going to know every single thing that I'm doing with my portfolio, whether that's NFTs, whether that's DeFi picks, how to earn yield, whether that's just simply buying and selling different altcoins, leverage strategies. Literally everything that I do when it comes to taking profit or making profit inside of the market is taught to you guys inside of that group. So check it out. Links are in the description. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.